Hey, welcome to Real Man Can. My name's David. I cover everything from canning to gardening to plumbing and even more. Tonight I am focusing on a sourdough starter. I will be baking sourdough bread. I've got a 3-day recipe. This is a 12-day starter. What I'm going to be doing is drying it just to have a backup. What you need to do is feed your starter once a week if it's in the refrigerator. If it's out of the refrigerator, it needs to be once a day. So I have a backup. I have a dried backup that will last indefinitely. And that's what I'm doing now. I make a backup every year so that I don't lose any time. Time meaning what I have is a 12-year starter. The older the starter, the stronger it is and the more flavorful the bread or whatever you make with it. So if I dry it every year, then if I lost it this year, if I lost it right now, then I'd still have a 12-year starter, if that makes sense. So let's get started. This is probably going to be a really short episode because there's really nothing to it. So you see how nice and bubbly it is? That's the way it should be. This one may be a little bit too wet, but you want it spongy, almost slimy. It is a little wet, but I mean, once you dry it out, it's going to be dry. Then you mix it to the consistency, the correct consistency. Then I say correct consistency. It's not. You don't have a lot of play. If it's too thin, then which I had that problem. When was it? Back in October and November, just over time, I'd let it get thinner and thinner, not realizing what I was doing. And then it just was no longer active. So the bread wouldn't rise. Oh, about to overflow. The bread wouldn't rise. My bread recipe does not call for yeast or anything to help it rise except for this. And the stronger this is, the better the consistency, the better the dough or bread will rise. So now I'm simply going to stick this on the dehydrator and get it started. Okay, just now I splashed a little bit of starter on the side of the jar, and without even thinking about it, I just wiped it off and licked it. Do not ever do that. I think that's one of the nastiest tasting things I've ever had. So now, I've already used some of the starter, quite a bit of it actually, and anytime you use it, you need to feed it or replenish it. And the way you feed it to use it is you feed it first thing in the morning, then you can use it that evening. I fed it this morning, and then I'm processing it and drying it. A third of a cup of flour. If I'm putting it away, it does not have to be precise. Just, well, you can watch it to see the consistency. And not quite as much water. I use filtered water from the reverse osmosis. And just add a little at a time until it's the right consistency. You want it to look a little too dry. It should be pretty thick and a little difficult to stir. So whenever you need to use the starter, take it out of the refrigerator probably about 12 hours before you need to use it. It needs to come to room temperature. Take it out of the refrigerator, feed it, and like I'm doing now, and then let it set for the day. And it can set at room temperature. In fact, it needs to. Don't seal it. When I store it in the refrigerator, I seal this. Okay, this is pretty thick. I don't know if you can see that, but this is really thick. It could even be a little bit drier, but I'm going to store it in the refrigerator. I can adjust the consistency of it then. But when I'm storing it at room temperature, getting ready to use it for something, I simply put a paper towel over it and I don't latch it down. I just leave it nice and loose. That will allow it to rise and expand the way it should. And once it starts doing that, you should see a lot of bubbles come to the surface. Since I'm putting it in the fridge, I'm gonna go ahead and latch it. In the refrigerator, it can stay for a full week. You do need to feed it once a week. And many times, if it's gonna sit for a while, it's gonna be in the refrigerator for a while, you wanna pull some off. About the same amount that you're putting in, you wanna take it out. That's referred to as the discard. What I used to think was if it would get crusty over the top, then that would be that is the discard. No, it's the nice, still good starter. It's just what you're discarding. And the reason for that is if you get too much in it in a container, then it may not rise. It may not be as active as you want it. So you do want to take off some, discard it, save it for pancakes, save it for something else. There are plenty of recipes to use with the discard. And then feed it, put it back in the fridge. Okay, so that is going, and I will be back when it dries, probably in the next day or two. Okay, welcome back. The sourdough starter that I was dehydrating is now dry. You want it, well, this one is a little thick. It can be thicker, that's fine. My last batch was a little bit thinner, but it should be really brittle and really dry. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna have a drawing. I wanna give away 4 batches of dried sourdough starter, 12-year-old starter, and to 4 subscribers. So make sure you subscribe, and I will have a drawing of the subscribers, probably in about a week or so. Okay? Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time.